With there being no stage playoffs at the end of Stage 4, the remaining fixtures left to play are primarily for position in the overall standings, from which we will soon discover our top 6 and indeed top 12 teams. So today, and moving forward every week, I want to take a look at the standings and see which sides are looking good for their playoff aspirations, and which upcoming matches could be crucial in determining qualification and the seeding for it. At the end of this opening week of Stage 4, the standings currently look like this. We've already known since the end of Stage 3 that the Vancouver Titans and New York Excelsior have guaranteed themselves qualification into the top 6 that automatically gets you through into the playoffs, with San Francisco also basically being in the same position with such a strong record and map differential that it would take a miracle for them to slip out of the top 6 over the coming weeks. On the flip side, we also already know that both the Florida Mayhem and Washington Justice have been eliminated from playoff contention, with it mathematically impossible to pick up enough wins within Stage 4 to break into the top 12. But now let's look at the remaining sides and discuss the playoff chances of each as it currently stands. Beginning with those most likely of contesting for a top 6 spot, there's the Hangzhou Spark, LA Gladiators, London Spitfire, Shanghai Dragons, Seoul Dynasty and Philadelphia Fusion, who currently sit from 4th to 9th in the standings at the moment. And those below them, who I've left out like the Guangzhou Charge, I think are a little too far behind in terms of record and map differential, could seriously challenge for one of the remaining 3 spots, even if they storm through the rest of Stage 4. But I potentially could bring them into this conversation next week, depending on how some of the matches play out. So at this moment in time, which of these 6 teams I've mentioned looks to be in the best position? I think of all of them, the clear favourite for one of the 3 remaining top 6 positions has got to be the London Spitfire. They started Stage 4 strongly, with 2 comfortable wins over weak opposition, and it's clear that the 2-2-2 roll-off has suited them brilliantly as they started to rekindle some of their 2018 form in these 2 performances. Add to the fact that comparatively, they have one of the easiest strengths to schedule remaining, with only 2 real tests, with the Charge in the opening match of week 2, and then the Titans the following week, meaning even if they were to lose both, I'd expect them to pick up victories in their other 3 matches, which I believe will be enough to see them inside the top 6 at the end of the season, thanks in part to a stronger map differential compared to some of the other sides around them. Aside from London though, it looks to be very tight between the others, in particular the Spark, Gladiators and Dragons, for the 2 other 3 places behind London. All 3 are in the next strongest map record and differential positions, but face incredibly interesting and tough schedules coming up where I can only be certain they win 1 or 2 matches for sure. I say this firstly for Hangzhou, because despite currently sitting 4th, they are arguably the weakest side of all these contesting for a top 6 spot, following the introduction of 2-2-2 roll-up, with their performance against Atlanta being very underwhelming and disappointing, for lack of quality, particularly from their DPS. It's only 1 match, so it's hard to still gauge their overall strength, but with their next 3 matches coming up against the Charge, Excelsior and Hunters, their top 6 hopes could quickly slip away from their control. The Gladiators, meanwhile, also have a very tough upcoming schedule, as they face Chengdu and San Francisco this week, but this wouldn't have mattered much to me had their only series from week 1 been their victory over New York. The DPS showing here especially would have made me confident that they'd make it into the top 6. However, following their disappointing loss to Houston later that week, the seeds of doubt have now been sowed into my mind, and these matches they play this week will tell us a lot more about this side. Shanghai are probably in the best nick of this trio of teams, having been competitive in their loss to Vancouver, whilst dominating Seoul on the back of fantastic DPS displays from Ding and DM. My only apprehension about their top 6 chances are the fact that they currently sit a game behind and have a much weaker map differential, and still have a few hurdles left in their schedule, although of these 3 sides, right now I give them the best shot of making the top 6, with the LA Gladiators shortly behind them. Philly and Seoul, on the other hand, I think are all but out of the top 6 hunt. They are both 2 games back after suffering disappointing 0-2 opening weeks to Stage 4, but their performance is unimpressive. It is not as if they have easy schedules to rectify the situation coming up, with at least a couple of really tough fixtures still left to play. Potentially, given we are yet to see the Dynasty play against more mid-table sides, they could turn their predicament around, utilising their very strong map differential. But for the Fusion, I reckon losses to these sorts of opponents last week, as well as their terrible map differential, have all but knocked them out of contention here. Let's now move away from top 6 contention, and instead look at the wider picture and competition for many teams vying to finish the season inside the top 12, booking their place into the 7-12 play-in tournament. For the moment, I think Seoul, Philadelphia, and the sides above them should probably be fine and make it into the top 12. But from next week, should they continue to lose and fall further down the standings, I'll address the real risk of them missing out on playoff action at the end of the season a little more seriously. Currently, it seems that the 3 teams best positioned for a finish inside the top 12 are Guangzhou, Chengdu, and Atlanta, who currently occupy these positions at 10, 11 and 12 respectively. Guangzhou had the best first week of Stage 4, with 2 impressive victories, first over Philly and then Boston, with the talented potential of the side finally starting to be realised, with the team looking very comfortable in the new 2-2-2 setup. The true test of their strength and playoff ambitions will be discovered over the next couple of weeks, with a string of tough fixtures against London, Hangzhou and Seoul, and it's only after these that we'll get a better idea as to whether their top 12 position is secure, and potentially if a long shot to top 6 place is on the cards. Chengdu have a terribly hard schedule ahead of them, but the wins they currently have in hand put them 2 games ahead of the chasing pack. If they can pick up a couple of odd surprises they are often able to do, then the top 12 should be in their hands. Atlanta uniquely are one of the few sides in this top 12 contest that actually have a positive map differential, and this could prove to be really important over the coming weeks as to whether they hold on to this position. They performed really well in their win over the Spark, but they are still quite a bit of an unknown in 2-2-2, and their matches against the Paris and Houston will be crucial and important towards their playoff hopes and keeping everyone behind them at a distance. I reckon 4 teams make up the contenders for the chasing pack that's looking to break into the top 12, and they are the Dallas Fuel, LA Valiant, Houston Outlaws and Paris Eternal. Dallas I think are in the worst position in terms of performance and quality they've shown recently, which isn't helped by some tough upcoming matches, but given how well they started the year, their record is in a position such that should they turn their play around, they're still within a chance of sneaking in. The Valiant Outlaws and Eternal, however, have been performing much better by comparison, and have a lot of matches against sides around them over the coming weeks will be crucial and must-wins if they want to overturn largely disappointing seasons into a top 12 shot at the playoffs. The only major negative to their positions is their map differentials, which are not the best and could prove costly if they go head-to-head against a team like Atlanta for one of the final available spots, with the Valiants in the best position of this 3. Lastly, I want to talk about Boston and Toronto, who despite still mathematically being able to make the top 12, I think realistically, they even know they're a little too far back to challenge for one of the last playoff spots. They are 2 and 3 games back respectively, and the map differentials by comparison are not at all good, so even if they were to win out, it would still likely be a tough ask. And the likelihood of that happening is very low, with both really underperforming lately, and on terrible runs of form without a win in quite a while, with both still looking to adjust to 2-2-2. So for now, I'd say neither side makes it. So what about the games for Stage 4, Week 2, that could have a major impact upon the playoff race? For Day 1, it would have to be the Guangzhou Charge against London Spitfire, which would be a fantastic series and give us a better idea as to where both teams stand in the balance of power within the playoff race. On Day 2, I'd look to the series between Houston and Philly, as well as Chengdu against the Gladiators. This should give us a better idea as to how the teams in the bottom half shape up to those who are looking to solidify their positions around the top 6. For the 3rd day, Atlanta vs Paris will be very important in the fight around 12th, and to end this week, the rain series against Houston should hold similar connotations and perhaps make the playoff picture a little clearer, depending on the result from the day before. And with that, we reach the end of my first look into the playoff race, and I'd like to thank you for watching. If there are any other video ideas you'd like to see, then please be sure to let me know. But if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter for this continuing Overwatch League coverage and content. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.